Hmm. Advice. It could be a romance advice. So it could be the boyfriend thing where like the person they fancy end up being Kiryu again. That could be a mix. Let's see. I gotta. It's probably romance advice. Kiryu's gonna smolder into a crush. Yep, I'm Joru. Glad to meet you. Nice to meet you too. I'm Kusno. Let's get to it then. Akame tells me you need some advice. Is that correct? Well, about that. I'm sorry for wasting your time. Is it too late to cancel our appointment? I'll pay the full fee and everything, of course. If you're sure, could you at least let me know why you're canceling for reference? Well, I was originally hoping to get some dating advice. Yep. There we go. I see. So your heart's been broken. Sorry to hear, but keep your chin up, champ. There's plenty of dating opportunities in your future. No, that's just it. My invitation went off without a hitch. Nice spin. I like it. I like it. Nice spin. Huh. Well, that's good news. There's gotta be more to this. Oh no. What is wrong with her? Or what is wrong with the arrangement is probably the idea. Like, is she an opportunist? Or is she a digger? There's a spin to this. There's gotta be a spin to this, right? But you must have really wanted help if you were willing to pay us for it. Did you end up getting advice elsewhere? Yes. I might have gotten my hands on the best life advice I could ask for. Oh no, it's a scammer. And it's a scammer that got that life advisor probably hired the girl, and the girl's in it with him. And then he's selling advice. Oh no. Yeah, the life advisor is probably a guy. None other than this here. Oh my no. It's even more. It's even worse. It's not even a person. Oh no. I wasn't ready for this one. It's Chat DDT. He got life advice from an AI. Oh no. I can't right now. This is so good. I freaking love these sub-stories. These sub-stories are so good. I can't believe, like... okay. Alright. I gotta stop thinking like a boomer. I gotta start thinking like a zoomer. Freaking Chat DDT. Oh, why didn't I think about that? Oh my gosh, that's so good. It's so freaking good. Chat DDT? What are you talking about? Oh, are you not familiar? Chat DDT is a huge tech breakthrough. We're at the forefront of a new industrial revolution. Sort of, yes and no. Yes and no. It's a deep cut, but no time to digress. Even though it's still so new, that program attracted so much attention that they started discussing regulations surrounding its use at the G7 summit. It's actually... that's very close to real. That's actually real. I feel like I'm missing something here. But seems impressive. Oh, you bet. Chat DDT might look like any other app at first, but it's got the power to answer absolutely any question you ask it. Any question. I mean, it's supposed to. Kusno. Nothing in this world is absolute, and technology can't solve all your problems. You should take care not to treat this lightly. Words to live by. Wow, you're awfully serious, aren't you? You should really give it a chance, Jodori-san. Chat GPT. Magic sure to dazzle you, and you might learn something. Yes, I can't fight the future forever. How do I go about this? Well, first off, 30 minutes later. So I just say something into my phone. Oh my gosh, it's also an assistance. Yep, go ahead. Ask it anything you want to know. Okay. What exactly is ChatDDT? ChatDDT is a machine learning AI designed to provide highly accurate responses to a wide variety of conversation topics. However, ChatGPT's answers are not 100% accurate. It's important to do your own research and make final decisions for yourself. That sounds about right. That's strange. Did I call their assistance hotline by mistake? Yeah. Nope. You're definitely talking to the program. It listens to your question, then AI came up with a response and read it back to you. AI? ChatGPT just said it a second ago. Short for artificial intelligence. Artificial. Okay, let me see if I can clarify. Oh, a robot. It's like a robot.
Nani?
What? That was a robot talking to me? Sure, more or less. That's incredible. Go ahead and ask another one. Whatever you're curious about. Let me think for a sec. Any good restaurants around? Tell me the secret of Cosmo Kiryu's popularity. Tell me what Hanawa's weaknesses. Oh, dude, come on, don't do this to me. Let's. I want to hear this. What makes Cosmo Kiryu so popular and cool? Cosmo Kiryu? Is that supposed to be somebody famous? Huh. Yeah. In his line of work, you'll have to be living under a rock not to know that name. Cosmo Kiryu is an Italian chef and restaurant owner based in the Saitama Prefecture. Man, if I were writing scripts for sub-stories, this is so good. I love this. Oh, modern age sub-stories. Oh man, this is the best stuff. I'm so excited for Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. Because it's even closer to present day. Although I do have to admit, given the year this is supposed to take place, given the year, it didn't explode that much. They're kind of a little bit ahead of the time period, because I would say it's probably around, this is more like 2022 2021 news, and it's not that yet in the game world. Wait, what? Last October, his book 3-minute recipes for the time crunch chef made a successful debut. Oh my gosh, it's another. Okay. It received a slew of positive reviews praising his attentiveness to the need of busy homemakers. On his popular video channel, his positive disposition and upbeat commentary provide widespread entertainment for his 100,000 subscribers. That is such a deep cut. The food channel. And it's marking the uptrend of cooking channels. And then a book to sell from it. I actually know 2 or 3 of them. And watched 2 or 3 of them. Wow, didn't realize I developed such a flourishing culinary career. I can't right now for these sub stories. It's a lot less all-knowing than I was led to believe. What is this thing actually useful for? Huh, well, like I told you earlier, it's great for giving the best romantic advice ever.
Nani?
I'm starting to put the pieces together here. So this is the amazing advisor that made you cancel my services.
So,
It is. See, there's this great gal at my university called Takaishi-san. I just asked Cha DDT what to say to her, and before I knew it, she was saying yes to date with me.
Nani?
Seriously? Oh, I should ask what to do next. I'm about to go out with a girl I like. How should I prepare for our date? If you're about to go on a date with a girl you like, the following points will help you prepare. 1. Practice good hygiene. 2. Suggest conversation topics you and your date will enjoy. 3. Be polite and demonstrate your best attributes. That is so chat GPT. And that is so not explicit enough. There's zero attention to process. How do you practice good hygiene? How do you determine and identify the conversation topics prior to suggesting them? What is construed as being polite? And what is the mutual understanding of best attributes between the two people? How do you demonstrate that? Oh, there it is. Kiryu's land on it right there. There we go. But that's the bare minimum as well. Hold on. Just give it a chance. Oh, okay.
Huh?
How do I demonstrate? Oh, okay. All right. How do I demonstrate my best attributes? Okay. The writer is got me checked out. Okay, fine. Let's keep going. Showing off the best version of yourself is not an easy task in today's age of social media and knowledge distribution. An overload of information can lead to parts of yourself being drowned out among unimportant details. Oh my gosh, I'm okay. That's good. That's actually really good. Wait, the question is, was this part actually written by ChatGPT? Like using ChatGPT? Like, I'm gonna be real now. If the person who wrote this, right, actually literally did this with ChatGPT, absolutely floored. I would be. This would be the craziest inception ever. I'm sure the writer probably wrote this, but still. I would love to ask a dev if that's what they did. To leave an impression on your partner, you must boldly showcase your personality. Okay. Is there a setting you can change to make it less vague? Yeah, exactly. Yes, Kiryu, exactly. I can't right now.
yeah.
No, we're getting there. How can I boldly showcase my personality? Okay, I'm gonna be... oh man, I gotta digress so hard, but... no, we're not gonna digress. You could try jumping off a bridge. Oh, they're showing the dangers now, the worst case scenario. Here's the turnaround. You could what? River diving for bridges is a thrill-seeking practice that has been outlawed in many areas due to high rates of related accidents. But that is precisely why doing it may prove your resolve. Is this thing stupid?
Eh.
Wow, I never would have thought about that. What?
Oi.
Wait, hey! What? Are you gonna... What? You might have canceled the service, but I'm not about... What the... Okay, that got dark. That got dark, but that's really strong dark comedy. That's really good. Man, there's so much digression in here. So, Chat GPT, there is a great use for AI, like an incredible great use for AI. One is to challenge knowledge seeking, so asking the correct questions, right? So that it was encouraging that guy to ask the correct questions, but it doesn't develop critical thinking skills. So when you ask the correct questions and are supplied with answers that you accept, there's no development of application or integrating information. So one of the biggest dangers and the scariest thing, this is just going to be a hot take, I don't want to digress in this at the moment, because of the fear from formal education institutions is that when you highly rely on something that can generatively integrate answers for you, you do not have the skills to check or analyze that in return. So a lot of times when people, this happens all the time. I'll give a great example so that we don't digress too far. It's the idea that you can use generative AIs to make products. And when you make products, it can be in the form of an actual product or a service. One of the biggest, I would say right now, that is often not disclosed is that the abuse or exploitation, and I'm going to use abuse and exploitation as a way to highlight that it's a trade-off. It's a very detrimental trade-off. It's incredibly convenient, but you can write articles, write responses very rapidly with the aid of generative AI. So things like, I want to be a professional this is where it gets become a deep cut. I want to be a professional journalist or a gaming journalist. What do? Well, the youth would use generative AI to create that review, and to the point where you just post it. Sometimes they change a word or two here and there. I'm gonna be real. It will likely pass and be helpful because it's spreading information for the target audience that is also exposed to YouTube's, like, the generative algorithms and whatnot, right? Because it's based on statistics, so the things that you are merely exposed to gets normalized. So the reviews are probably helpful if you just use generative AI to post it, but it's not your work technically, and you can benefit from it and you can do that stuff, but you didn't use any of your skills or develop any of your skills to actually write that thing. So the take-home message here is, yes, you can definitely make it into a model, but no, it does not help you improve as a journalist, and no, it does not develop your skills to know that it is dangerous, the shortcomings and trade-offs that you have. So in the future, when someone relies on generative AI, they themselves can be fooled by generative AI products. So because you don't develop any of the skills to do that. And that there lies, it's a rapid normalization that's already happening because of social media. If you are habitually and merely being told what to do, be it another human, an algorithm, or your influencer, your favorite influencer of choice, they are not necessarily responsible for unintentionally normalizing you and gaslighting you. So when they say something enough, they believe it, but it also inherently makes you believe it. But it removes away the process of understanding why you believe it, how you believe it, and if it's true. Generative AI just skips all of that step. Now you can do it whenever. You always have a resource to do so. So when you have young people who are used to that, let's just say, as long as they're not the ones running companies, businesses, and like paying the bills and are in your employers, it is incredibly obvious that you didn't write stuff. So, you know, and I've encountered this firsthand. When someone talks about like, oh yeah, you know, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, and then they share with me their product, the first thing I know is they didn't do the product. They did not write that piece. They did not draw those things, because it was well beyond maturity and nuance that a person who said they just started doing it, those aren't your skills. Your skills were not there. Especially writing. Writing is incredibly obvious when it is not reflective. You can still write like the generative AI. Like, what I mean is, you can probably come up with that. But when someone says, oh yeah, I'm going to start reviewing games, right? And they post this whole paragraph, like organized, maybe the way I write something that took 18 years to develop, like my own strategy, and just by coincidence it kind of looks like that. There's no way a kid that's like 19 straight out of high school could review a game and write that thing. It came from ChatGPT. And if you do that and you post that and you build your career on that, this has become a digression now. So we'll spend time on this talking point because it's very important in my opinion. I see it everywhere. Like, and it fools anyone who also relies on those things. Like in Steam reviews, it happens all the time. You see it, it's like, oh, this was helpful because I didn't read all of it. It was so long that there's no possible way this came from someone who is 18 who played the game for 30 minutes for it to happen. Or a 3-hour review with like a 3,000 word essay on all the parts that require well over 3 hours. Nearly astronomically statistically impossible to get some of those opinions and pieces. And kids would post those, and I'm referring to kids as in like intellectually immature people, as in they haven't gone through a professional phase, they have not developed any skills, and they rely on aided tools. It is incredibly obvious. And when you become older, this is where it gets really scary. When you get older, those things you posted, you can't remember where they are. So when you become older, those all the things you procedurally generated and like made, passed it off as your own work, they will come back to bite you. It happens. It's a legacy. So if you build your career on not doing the work, it is just as dangerous as not doing it at all. Or like what I mean is more just as limiting to your growth as not doing it at all. There's a way to do and use tools knowing what their trade-offs is. And the biggest one is generative AI. When you remove the process of doing that, you can't understand it, nor can you do it. And there are better and there are like more realistic problems or like examples that I can think of that doesn't necessarily deal with AI. AI is just a context. Like for example, someone who says they're really good at a video game when they only play one type of video game, and they somehow use that one type of video game to evaluate the quality of other video games. That's the same thing as generative AI. It's the same leap of logic, the psychology behind it. When you become complacent and say you're good at video games because the video games you play you're good at, that doesn't mean you're good at video games. It's an awareness. You are good at specific video games. You have to be aware that when you practice a specific skill, it means you are under practice or not good at other skills. Because the specific skill you have has interference. There are trade-offs. If you're a really, really fast thinker, you cannot think very slowly. You might be thinking, well, who ever want to think slowly? Well, have you ever had a panic attack? Because if you want to slow your thoughts down, you need to practice how to slow your thoughts down. If you want to be faster, you have to practice being faster. But over practicing either means you're under practicing the others. You can build a foundation for different skills and like become jack of all trades, the phrase that they use here. But generally speaking, that one, I hope it goes around, you know, let's see the conclusion of this, because I hope there's like a fun thing to it, like a no harm, no done, but that no harm, no foul kind of thing. But that is really dark, right? It's really dark, but it's in a video game, so you know, it's kind of the whole like dark humor thing. But hypothetically, it is metaphorical. Jumping off a bridge is what someone is already doing for their career, like figuratively. Their career is already gone. Their propensity to grow is already gone if you're already using ChatGPT to write your essays for school. If you think it's somehow reasonable and normalized to do any form of expression or communication using aided generative AI, because you will not practice any of those skills at all. And by the time you mature and require those skills, they're not your own. You have not done any of them. And those are basic skills. Being able to write a cogent expression of your own thoughts is a basic skill. It's a life skill. To this day, just because you're chatting live, like in a forum or something, and you can't write, and it's somehow the decorum is acceptable that you just write like, that guy is a great actor, they should give him an, or that guy is doing a lot of work, they should give him an Oscar. And if you spend your whole time writing that on YouTube Shorts and just copy pasta those things, every moment you're spending with that, you're not typing, you're not conditioning or practicing how to communicate properly on a forum, you know, writing. So it is your choice, but you have to understand that you might love emotes a lot. This is specifically catered towards Twitch. You might be really expressive with emotes, but every time you rely on that skill and you keep using that, you have lost touch and contact and application of any other form of communication. It's unfortunate, but that's what happens when normalization, heavy dependence on certain things is like. So if it isn't ChatGPT, it's Franker Z emotes. If it isn't that, it's using a medium with a camera. Well, you don't always gonna have a camera. You don't always have autonomous control over other people's, you know, vocabulary or existence or something in a virtual environment, right? So all of those things are really important. And this is the scariest thing, but man, it's funny too. Like, I like it because they're writing about it and they're creating a situation that's humorous in its sense. But to me, when things are humorous and stuff, there's so many deep things in there. I was trying so hard not to deep cut into the whole streamer thing about the getting clout, and then that clout turned into passion. Passion creates a incredible strong tunnel vision, and that backed by desperation leads to that situation. It might not be murder, right? We're not talking about they're using very dark humor here, a lot of dark humor, but it's not a big step from saying, oh, it's okay, you're just a number to pay for my bills for streaming. Like, we have other examples of this where like someone would yell at another person because they spent 4 hours sitting in front of a chair doing something and keeping you company, and feels that it is in their right to demand payment for a service that is voluntary. That's kind of the stuff, and it's still the same, along the same lines. So the whole streamer thing and the streamer tagline and what we're gonna see here, the conclusion of maybe the conclusion of this ChatGPT thing is the lack of awareness. It is exceptionally true for younger people because they no longer require, or they a lot of a combination of many things, like the accessibility of parents, and so the ones that are online are the ones that are secluding. And I could really see that because you can also make the argument, a great analogy of my generation would be those who end up embracing the internet and spend less and less time with their parents. Like, what I mean is, yes, you could make an argument most of these are those parents that are not around for their children and stuff. But now let's talk about the people who have their parents around. Well, because of the attraction and the convenience of the internet, that also reduces that too. And it's a choice you make. So like for me, my communication with my parents is probably limited by the way I spend my time here, right? And whatnot. But I am also incredibly far into adulthood and understand that I am sacrificing and trading off time with people I know and here. A kid who is reinforced by convenience does not know the consequence or appreciate the consequences that they're trading off, like skills that they do not practice. And who is responsible for that? Well, we don't know. It's still determining that. And that's what the ChatGPT thing was highlighting, where they were talking about regulation. Like, there's still talks about how to regulate, moderate, or utilize these tools. It's a really serious topic, and also a really a product that has a lot of potential, but also a lot of dangers. And the accessibility of ChatGPT, for me, I don't want to be like a fearmonger or something. I'm just saying it's fantastic if they are aware of it. I've seen writing firsthand these days that are so insufficient. Like, what I mean by insufficient is it is so heavily reliant on understanding that it only speaks to a specific crowd. Like, when someone tries to write and talk and explain something, what is very clear when I read or listen to the person that they only interact with one type of people, like one type of environment. So when you start talking to someone who's outside that environment, or someone like myself who's been in many environments over his life, because I'm 35 plus, as opposed to, and wasn't grown up in a singular environment, versus someone who spends their first 18 years of life gravitating towards a specific environment. When you ask them a question, you can nail on the wall exactly what type of environment they spend most of their time in. It does not show dynamics, understanding, flow, inclusion, exposure. It's prescribed. What does ChatGPT do not do? It never voluntarily asks you questions. You are always the person who's asking the questions. So like that kid, you could be inquisitive enough to ask the right type of questions to stay intelligent, stay competent, right? It's rarely the case the younger you are, because you only have enough experience to ask the questions. You need experience to ask the type of questions to expand. So that kid only asked very narrow bullet point specific questions. And if it's that narrow, you will get a response eventually that is quite narrow and extreme, as in it will lead down a path that there's no you would lose your self-awareness, in my opinion. It would be very difficult to come out of it. So it can get to the point where you don't understand why you have to do this. Like, this is the only thing I ever enjoy. And when I ask a person, why is this the only thing you ever enjoy? Their explainer would be non-existent because it would be the only environment they can comprehend. Or when I ask someone, hey, how does this work? It would be in a manner that gives them away. Like, oh, it sounds like you probably spent most of your time talking in this environment where you don't form a connection with this and so on, right? It's very obvious. I can't think of specifics things. You could say something like the word choice sometimes. A good example of word choice would be garbage, you know, hot takes. I use these words only in this manner. So, like, in this context. But if you find me in a different context, I wouldn't necessarily use these words because I've been exposed to the other context. So you take your vernacular and your jargon and your empathy and your values from this closed system you have, and occasionally you're going to have to interact with someone outside of the system. Well, if you were able to sustainably feed yourself, provide your shelter, and make friends and find a loved one, all within that closed environment, you can certainly succeed. It's that possible for a human being. Yes, to some extent. Statistically, how successful is that? Well below 5%, I would say. I think that's being conservative, but I would say 5% of whoever all that try. So in terms of this, it would be the internet. The streaming community and generative AI is still part of the internet trend, what they're mapping here. So if you think you can succeed and win the odds, then that's fine. It's still less than 5%. So the more skills and exposure you have to acquiring skills that aren't provided for you, the higher your success rate goes, because when you move into another environment, there'll be overlapping skills that are preferable or more appropriate. So when someone describes to me, like, I ask, how's your day? And they describe it in a specific way, it's like, you're pretty much giving away, at least to me, a good indicator of your level of competence in terms of communication. Communication in a way, the topics you choose, the context you choose, cultural references, how you express your emotions, how do you express disagreement while being agreeable, when to choose to be disagreeable, reading nonverbal cues, all that blends into your response choices. And if you can discern that, generally I use it to avoid confrontation or negative sentiments. The key point here is I can choose to do that. I'm not intuiting it most of the time, because there are many things I can intuit. I can just let myself unfilter myself. You literally mentioned that word. It's like, wow, you have no filter. Well, here's the goat to what Kiryu said, right? You need experience, multiple skills, multiple life experiences to have any sort of filter in the first place. Because you can choose what type of filters based on experience. When you talk to someone and a kid, like, for example, there are very many happy human beings who are happily married, when having family, and then their goal in life is like always be the straight and narrow, no filter, always tell what's on your mind, etc. It's like, yes. How often can you say that and say you are a successful person and agreeable to a lot of people and stuff? Even those people, since they're on the straight and narrow and honest and all that stuff, will say not very, but they are happy. All the power to you. But the vast majority of people, their filters are part of their personalities. It is a representation of acquired skill. When you're always the straight and narrow, you don't know when not to be always straight and narrow. That straight and narrow thing, with all the intent and pride, you could send someone down a spiral of depression. And you can make the argument with that straight and narrow thing is, I did my best. I don't feel any remorse because I did my best. Or they end up feeling remorse and it's like, well, I don't know what else I can do. It's like, yes, that's exactly the point. So you either rationalize your shortcomings through self-awareness, or you take the consequences and then encounter change. That's usually how that goes, right? Otherwise, you probably spiral into depression and be upset with yourself and refuse to change. That's a vicious cycle. So those things are very toxic to self. It's self-inflicted. And I encountered most of these people. There's an individual that I know really close that regardless of how it's pointed out, they are well aware, but they are most certainly happy enough to deal with that. Kids who do this, it sounds crazy, but that's what I see most of the time. At least that's what I feel is the source of a lot of this, where they get to see what they want to see. They get to ask and find answers where they want to find answers. If the answer is different, they can still find enough to support their answers. Nothing is accepted without your choice. And because of that, you do not develop any essential skills that are preventive. You only develop skills that you can see in hindsight. Well, write down a list of marketable skills you have, and I can guarantee you how varied the skills are and unrelated to each other also is reflective of how dynamic the person is and their experiences are. So for example, if you were asked, what do you do well? And I'll give a good example of something that's naturally positive, but not really. An example is, what are your marketing skills? I memorize things very well. I get, I do well in school. I get good grades. I'm always on time. Well, all of them are related to one specific activity. So even in the sense of being a really good student doesn't guarantee you to be very well-rounded. So when you're writing down skills, if all your skills are strongly related to each other, it also presents a need to be aware that your skills are not diverse enough. It's not diversified. And ChatGPT AI makes it so that it only develops your relevant competency. It will not help you evaluate the value of that advice that's coming out. So like, for example, you need to look for research. It's like, well, I don't know how to do this thing. All right, you ask ChatGPT. How do you ask that question? Well, you ask it in your own self-interest, right? So you ask it in the form you can think best of, and it will, I just ended with the preposition again. It will provide some answers, then the only follow-up question you can conceive is through your narrow lens, not through someone who has multiple experience or out disagreements, or someone who has many different other aspects of their lives, like, or tell you something you don't want to hear but you might want to hear just from exposure. No, it'll tell you with the best formulaic way to answer your question, and those questions will only be as good as your line of thinking. Questioning offers just as much information than getting answers. In fact, I would probably argue you end up having more questions than answers if you're someone who's enlightened and diverse. So it's a difference, and I think this is probably the last hot take on the whole ChatGPT thing. Being scientific isn't because you know what the data says and the conclusions of other people's interpretation. Being scientific is having the capacity to take observations and integrate and create a critical thinking, some conclusion or interpretation that requires critical thinking of your own. So when you go around and see, like, oh yeah, there's 4 converging evidence that says using generative AI makes kids smarter, right? Well, using that end is an interpretation. So then you look at the data, and it shows just those 2 correlated, right? You have no idea what's missing. Like, it's not just those 2 data. But the thing is that what you're looking for is just those 2 correlations. What else can correlate with all those things? Kids learning more information overall. It's more convenient. You get answers because the AI it's worded in a way that's very convincing. There are so many other ways to explain that, but you can never see that if you're a person who did not develop alternative experiences and perspective. So no matter how intelligent you are capable of being, and I believe that most humans are incredibly intelligent and competent, experience is a limiting factor because it doesn't involve experiences that are diverse enough for your well-being and understanding. You can be an incredibly great person in thought, but in reality, it could be a small piece of reality. So someone who goes around saying that they have 98% success rate by offering tough love and being honest all the time is someone who only selected experiences and choose to believe experiences that being honest all the time is a solution to everything. And I'm choosing that specific example is because there are so many things like honesty that has a no lose situation. Like it's always presented as a win-win situation. Well, generally speaking, the people who think is always a win-win situation only choose situations in which it wins, as in it cuts out. So for example, if you're really great at kicking a ball, and you know that if you're good at kicking a ball, you can be successful, you would choose environments that involve kicking a ball. You wouldn't enrich yourself to be in an environment that doesn't involve kicking a ball. What else can you do? Well, I can kick something else other than a ball. You're still kicking. Now let's take the kick away. Can you think of any other solution that doesn't involve your foot and a ball? So you keep asking yourself that type of thing. And one of the, things of being scientific is asking what it is not. In fact, that is part of the scientific method. The very first thing I like to believe that most people are educated on is the null hypothesis, what it is not. Because what it is not is a lot more than what it is. As in, if you believe the world revolves around you, you ask yourself, what evidence is there that the world doesn't revolve around you? If you ask that question, there are way, way more evidence likely to suggest that the world doesn't than it does. But when it does, that most evidence supports your hypothesis because you've disproven that there's not a lot, that you've proven that there's not a lot of evidence that supports the null hypothesis, then you truly and genuinely have a potential factual interpretation of something. That's what makes science rigorous and difficult. Scientific knowledge difficult. And being a scientist is understanding that process. Not to be confused with internet experts, which do not exercise most of that methodology. And in my opinion, here's a counter argument to mine. It's not pragmatic to do that. So when you're on the internet and you're doing all these topics rapidly over and over again, the end game is to attract an expert who only does that with the scientific process, not necessarily presenting yourself as your own expert in it, because as someone who is likely on the internet, it's a trade-off of being varied. You cannot necessarily become an expert in one thing if you're already on the internet pre-selected to know a lot of things. If you know a lot about a lot of things in order to prop your career, right, as an internet personality, you are less likely to be an expert in any of them. That's kind of the idea. And one of the things is all the skills that involves being attractive on the internet. All of the time, all those skills and time you use to refine that part, you are becoming less and less of an expert at anything you present, because you have to spend time doing that. And then some people would ask, like, well, there aren't real experts on the internet. It's because they're spending their time being experts. It goes the whole way. So I'm saying there's a balance between these two things. On the one hand, you must have enough varied experience and perspective that you don't think yourself into a box. On the other hand, you want to specialize enough that you don't the skill that you're picking is not stuck in the box, but also refined to a state that you can extract enough happiness from, like, from being good at something, right? You have to be good enough that it feels rewarding, but you also cannot be so reliant on it so that you're stuck in a box. That's kind of the balance of being self-aware and being competent versus being incompetent and naive. And with that little slight digression out, I really wanted to say more, but this is a tough topic. We'll just file it under, like, the idea that there's a balance between having convictions, emotional intelligence about one's own principles, and then being tolerant enough to be open-minded to other ideas when the current ideas you have are not sufficient, right? And in this case, the kid thinking it's a great idea to jump off into a river due to the AI is because they don't have enough self-awareness to know there are other alternatives, or how ridiculous it is, or how you frame it. There's nothing to frame. This kid hasn't done anything or exposed to anyone, which is Kiryu at this point in juncture, to frame alternatives. And that's kind of goes a little bit back to the examples I had that involve parenthood and teaching and school and whatnot, and then being heavily reliant on social media that is algorithmic and voluntary, and influencers who have agendas and are refined in what they do and sell. So, like, for example, here's a big one, and I'll probably end this digression on that one. Video games are the only form of escapism that works for you, is because you only spend time playing video games and watching video games as a form of escapism. It's a normalization by mere exposure, generally speaking. It's hard to deny the idea when all I have to do is ask the person, what do you do most of the time? And when I'm asking someone, like, what are you up to lately? How have you been feeling? What I'm trying to do is get a feeling for what they're associating their feelings with, how highly frequent important things they're highlighting. So when someone comes up and says, man, life sucks. And then it's like, so, oh yeah, so what have you been doing? Well, I've been playing video games all day. Like, okay. So clearly whatever you're doing, which if I'm taking your face value, you're playing video games all day, and you say you're not happy, video games is not providing the stimulus. You got to do something else. Maybe how you play video games could be a potential, but do you know how to play differently? Is it the specific type of video game? So if they're doing it 90% of the time, I'll ask them, what type of video games that interest you? And then they'll name one thing. It's like, perhaps it's time to try a different type of video game. It's like, and if it's bold enough, perhaps you want to try something other than video games. They just keep stepping back as far as this person is willing to tolerate and be open to. You start specific, then you pull it back so that the perspective widens. And usually with time, it can include other things. But generally speaking, asking someone how they are and they say, oh, they're okay. It's like, so what are you doing? Then they talk about their activities. The first things that come up may make a significant portion of their lifestyle. So you try to connect their lifestyle, but usually when someone says they're really happy, technically whatever comes after is used for like talking, because it's very pleasant. It's going to be a great way to start. When someone says they're sad, then everything that comes after is probably related to why they're sad. And it might sound counterintuitive when someone says, oh, I hate school. And then it's like, so what are you doing now? Well, school's almost over. I can't wait to play video games. It's like, that's part of the problem. You might be thinking, it's like, no, wait, but school's over, so the problem's gone. It's like, well, they're thinking they're avoiding a problem, and they're looking forward to something and not solving the problem. So the thing they're doing that's easy and inconvenience is part of the reason why they're having difficulty addressing the problem. It's the euphemism, the little like conventional knowledge about running away from your problem instead of addressing it head on. They're all related. There's no like compartmentalization of, if something is corely bringing you down, your compartmentalization is a coping mechanism. It's not a solution. Coping is to mitigate whatever you're trying to cope with. It's not proactively solving the problem. So when someone says, yeah, I can't wait till school's over so that I can play video games, it's like, well, the first thing I would say if you want to start is you would encourage the person to play video games internalized in a manner that allows them to do something else other than a video game. Like, for example, wow, you really like rhythm games. Have you considered playing an instrument? Or you really like this music in this rhythm game. Have you ever gone to a concert to listen to some of this music? What it does is it expands the potential reach of their center interest so that they can intuit and be able to gather different stimuli. Because if the person tells you is happy, this is irrelevant, right? Because when they're happy and content, it will probably have a lot, like the kid here was worried about dating, but instead of trial and error and trying to proactively use tools and then see what happens, they asked a tool to prescribe an answer. And that tool is so provocative at providing direct answers readily that it can lead to a false sense of security, which is what happened here. The false sense of security, with dark humor, you can see that they might be secure in following someone off of a bridge, or following advice off of a bridge, and that's the side where it's most scary. And I'm always concerned about the youth these days when it comes to that. And I am part of this. Like, I'm a participant in this. So I spend these opportunity to at least remind myself what I know. And then maybe one day someone will have the courage to like see that the thing you do is connected, right? They're all part of you. I know compartmentalization can help in periods of objective tasks. Like, oh, you have to push yourself harder to get stronger. Like, well, you do have to compartmentalize the part where you just want to quit and stop, right? In order to do it. But it's with the awareness that this is accurate enough to make you stronger. Well, there are people who work out thinking they should stop whenever because they feel bad, right? It's different from someone who is stopping because they feel bad, aware that they have to push past a limit to get better. So now they're voluntarily understanding that if they stop now, they are also sacrificing potential gains. That is a framework that involves extra knowledge that isn't related to what you want to see. So when I tell people a lot of times with fitness, it's like, oh yeah, stop when you're exhausted. Like, don't push yourself too hard or else you can risk injury. But remember that you also need to press your limits in order to get stronger. That's different from telling someone like, oh, whenever you feel uncomfortable, just stop. With no explanation. Like, it's just vague. Like, just no extra details. So that person will say, oh, and then you'll say something like, oh, as long as you do it, it's good enough. Like, well, that's not necessarily true. It can be true. You're omitting something, so you're hoping it works out. So this person is naive. You kept the person naive, which could work if you're a person who can see a person, the type of person who would be receptive to being kept in the dark. That's different. Like, now it's like the meta of the meta. That's different from a person who says, as long as I'm telling the truth, it's always okay. So if you always operate in that, well, if you're always telling the truth, you could get someone depressed. But as long as you're always telling the truth, it's going to be okay. And that person just gives up on life. And then you somehow are going to have to rationalize why telling the truth was not your fault. Like, it's not your fault. That's fair as long as you're happy with it. It doesn't change the reality that one approach isn't going to be appropriate. And it's no different. Like, when you get older, it becomes generally a little bit harder to diversify. So one time, taking it back to this whole like AI thing, I see a lot of potential for generative AI. That's coming from a perspective of someone who exercised self-awareness to see the potential, in my opinion. Which is in the context of all the dangers or potential dangers that I can see with AI. So it's definitely different from someone who's tunnel vision. There's like a lot of layers. Below that would be someone who tunnel visions on the positives, but still have experience. It's just a tunnel vision due to passion. And then there's naivety and ignorance, and then inexperience, right? This is inexperience. It's so dark. The streamer thing, incredible inexperience. It's like, oh, so this is your only choice. This is your only form of success. This is the only thing you can do. And that leads down a path of desperation. So hopefully kiddos these days, maybe even like responsible adults, those who are in charge of this stuff, find some altruism in their life to safeguard or find clever ways of encouraging people not to entrap themselves into a reliance on their underdeveloped skills. The whole conversation thing about asking the 3 questions, I do it all the time. I just don't explain it to anyone why I ask those 3 questions. And just, I would say over 80% of conversations, even to strangers, are so underdeveloped in online conversations. It's to the point where as long as they say they're happy, I just accept reality, because it would be unrealistic of me to try to, and it would be very rude possibly, and it can give me lots of conflict of interest, right? But generally speaking, if you ask yourself what you say and keep track of what you decide to say to the person, it's all right to say you're okay. But what are you thinking before you say you're okay? To a person who says they're always just saying honestly, and they're always saying something where it's excused by something, well, as long as that provides sufficient feedback for remaining happy, then that's fine. But if you keep telling yourself, or you keep feeling a certain way, and you keep doing the same thing, have to be self-aware enough to know it's a problem. It's part of the problem. It's not the problem. It's just associated with it. So things like, one last thing, your career keeps going up, but you keep feeling excessively tired. Those are really high frequency things. So they're probably related. Can you find the connection? Well, it's your life. Try to find it. Or I'm doing super well in a video game. I'm improving really, really well, but my arms keep hurting. They're related. Or they're very, very likely to be related. Right? And I can accept something, for example. Here's one that's personal to me, that's relevant to everything here. Oh, just like the streamer. in the previous sub-story. I keep doing really, really long digressions and really, really long pieces on certain things and take a really long time playing video games or getting through a part and completing things. And also, I feel like I'm always talking to myself, but that's okay. They're related. So how do you explain that? Well, I go look to see every possible explainer. And that's how I develop, in my opinion, over time, at least receptively accurate portrayals of what constitutes as successful, popular, trending stuff that I can choose to do or not choose to do. And ultimately, I choose not to do them. So knowing those things allow me to feel comfortable chatting to myself or talking to myself for posterity. And perhaps one day raise awareness enough for others. So there's no motivation needed outside of myself because I already have all the tools and experience necessary to develop solutions, different coping mechanisms, new coping mechanisms, new ways of being happy. So I teeter from being pessimistic, optimistic, pessimistic, and all the above. When you spam someone and say, oh yeah, I'm waiting to do it just this way to play something, and today I got spam, more or less, some person who thinks it's appropriate to come in and just judging by the name, the username, mislead people by saying that they're some sort of representative of the game and say they're gonna wait to play the game a certain way. Well, that only tells me that not only do you mislead people as trying to be an authority on this game series, you also are ignorant and selectively bias yourself to experience the game in a certain way. There's so many limitations to that. So a lot of things tell a lot of things to a person who knows a lot of the little things. Now, when you get into details, I tap out. Because I am well aware I cannot get into details. I cannot break down, I don't know, the thing that someone spent many hours on regarding this game. That's self-awareness. So whoever, you know, that thing that little blip that I interacted with, that's more of a advertisement of themselves and explaining that that is someone I do not want to associate with because we have a conflict of interest. They believe that they should experience certain things a very specific way, and I disagree with them. You should experience things the most ways possible that you can tolerate and not attract conflict of interest with yourself. So for example, am I healthy enough to live happily? Well, if I'm not, I need to come up with ways to make myself healthier. So I need to remain open to the idea that when I'm not healthy enough, I need to find alternatives to become healthier. If I'm already healthy, I need to ask myself, am I working hard enough to maintain that content healthiness? When you only have one option to be healthy, you won't know if you can do anything else if you're not healthy enough. It'll feel like you have no choice. You'll end up doing that one thing until it's so extreme that you can't do anything else. The streamer in this sub-story is a great example. They went so extreme because there's no other alternatives. They have no way of knowing if there's any other way to be a successful streamer. I know a lot of ways to be a successful streamer. But because I know a lot of ways, in my opinion, my humble opinion, I know a lot of ways to be a successful streamer. Because of that, I'm comfortable not doing any of those things. I don't have to do any of those things. I know the bare minimum that I need to want to stream. There's nothing else that I need because I know a lot of things that I don't need. It's not an excuse because I can say with a smile. That streamer thing, that hit really hard. That's like I would say the vast majority of people would be kids who play video games will happen to feel like it broke a fourth wall with that streamer thing. And then this thing too. There are kids who submit work that is completely generated by ChatGPT, fooling no one really. It's incredibly hard to feel like you might be thinking, oh yeah, but they fooled the bar exam and they fooled that stuff. It's like, yeah, but the bar exam is standardized. Like, it's not like a human is gonna comb through it. There are a lot of things that make it very indicative of not the person. Like, for example, a 14-year-old passing the bar exam using a machine learning thing. That doesn't, it's not coherently, it's a meta level of connection. It deals with like intuition and stuff, saying like, yeah, maybe once in a lifetime, but this is awfully suspicious. So kids who become really reliant on tools and stuff have no longer even done anything long enough to develop intuition. So when someone shows me a product, or when they tell me, oh yeah, you know, I just got out of college and I'm gonna be, I'm so excited, I've been working on this project and then I'm starting this and this, the first thought I have is, did you complete anything? Because you say a lot of things you're going to do. You have yet to say anything you've done, and how you keep doing the things you've already done before you start something new. That comes up a lot. And sure enough, what happens is that person, if I look enough, that person, that was the last time they did that thing. And in this case, since I'm on Twitch, right? Usually that's streaming. Or streaming a specific content. Or streaming doing something. And I catch myself doing the same thing. Like, I planned something that I was going to do. I told myself there was a 50-50 chance I wasn't going to do it by the time that comes up. Fair enough. And the other person would say like, oh yeah, no, this is going to happen, then this was going to happen. And it doesn't happen for the next 3 months. And you just don't. That's, or, oh yeah, you know, I'll come back and tell you about it. And they're gone for the rest of it, like forever. Like, yeah. That's probably what's going to happen, just based on how they talk about. So what does this do for some people? It helps you temper your expectations, so you don't end up become a cynic. When you become a cynic, sometimes that can be prone by reality or like a reality check, but generally cynicism comes with getting exposure to something that you expect positive things with, but then it disappoints you. So your cynicism builds over time. And in order to ground cynicism, you would have to know enough to not get fooled all the time. So just that these dark situations, so far all the sub-stories are kind of dark. It's not making me cynical about the rest of the sub-stories, because I have enough experience to know that there are happy sub-stories too. Just saying. Alright, that's a good digression. It is my intent when I start to digress that I want to give it some girth, you know? I don't want to just leave it on some hot takes. Hot takes are kind of alright, but I'm not a hot take person. And like that streamer, hot takes are very important for like content creation right now. Not me. I'm actively choosing not to, but I know what the consequence. All right, and then we're gonna see the conclusion of this sub story and call it a day, and come back another time. Hopefully this kid is okay. RGG does not do like super dark things. They usually right life lessons that Kiryu can help.
Boy.
You're not really planning to jump in, are you? Of course! If it's for the Kaishi-san, a little river diving is nothing. So you really would do anything if this robot told you to. It's not like that. I weighed the pros and cons and decided this for myself. Okay, that's promising, I think. You're gonna get yourself hurt. Not if I do it right. I've got to impress her for that date.
Boy.
Slow down and use your head, kid. If you land yourself in the hospital, there won't be a date at all. You're right. I saw a solution and thought, this is perfect, and then there's got to be less dangerous ways. Well, let me ask again. You're gonna ask it again, even after all that. Hey, chat DDT's the whole reason I have a date in the first place. Fair enough. How do I show the girl I like that I'm suave and quick thinking? You could try protecting her from an assailant. Oh no. Oh no. That's such an Americana thing. Such a display of love and decisive action will help to mirror romantic ideals often found in popular media. Okay, I mean, true. That is definitely one way to interpret it. You will first need to become entangled with an assailant. Popular media shows us this can be done by making challenging eye contact or bumping into them with your shoulder. That's a lot of movie content. Now it's just encouraging you to be a menace to society. Oh, so like in that manga I read.
Boy.
Hey, hold up. Oh, he's gone. Okay. Let me guess. Yakuza. The kid ends up picking a fight with a Yakuza guy.
Huh?
No, not really. Maybe not. That race jacket though. Or that yeah, the racing jacket though. So he must have bumped into him.
Huh?
We don't need to know what they were saying. Wait, they just crap talk to each other.
Boy.
Sorry to step in, but would you mind letting him off the hook?
Huh?
Huh? No way. This freaking sardine shoulder checked me on purpose. You're understandably upset, but it was a momentary lapse of judgment. Don't go too hard on him. The kid's learned his lesson, I think. Okay. Fine. Sure. Oh, that's different. That was an evasive strike. Get out of here. Oh, butthead. You done? Drop the issue and we'll put this behind us.
Boy.
And you, what do you have to say? Okay. Alright, I'll take it. Think twice. Yeah, alright. Get out of here. Old punk. You have got to stop and think about what you're trying to accomplish here. At this point, I'm starting to think you're the robot. Yikes. But the only reason this girl's even talking to me is chat. Oh my gosh. Like a broken record. I admire her from a distance. Passive, you know? The only reason I was able to work up the courage to invite her on a date was because of ChatGPT's advice. Look. I'm not going to tell you to swear off it forever, but it's just a tool. Rethink how you use it.
Yeah.
I'm not that clever. I'm not great with words. I'm definitely not no good at talking to people I'm interested in. Not until ChatGPT. Yeah, there it is. There it is. We already talked about all of this, so it's fine. I'll probably be using it for the rest of my life, and that's okay. A good example is video games. You know. I want to confess my feelings to the girl I like, but I like to subtly hint that I have something important to tell her so I don't spring it on her. Let me see if I can help. Do you have more information about this girl you like? She's a 20-year-old female college student who likes cats and cooking. In order to not surprise a 20-year-old female college student who likes cats and cooking with your confession, you could send the following message to hint at your feelings. I'm looking forward to our date so much my heart is beating 1,000 beats a meow minute. What? If we could cozy up in the kitchen and cook a meal together, that'd be just the perfect. Oh my. Okay. Nope. No. Those lines go straight in the garbage. Too late. Just sent it. Oh my. You have got to be kidding me. I'm there with you, Kiryu. Oh, she replied. She's disgusted, right? You should take this opportunity to learn from your... It probably worked out, but you still didn't come up with the skills to do so. Wow, it sounds like Takaishi-san is just as excited as I am. Alright, well, let's see.
Nani?
Really? He says, I can't wait for my date with Mew either, and cooking a meal together sounds meowsing.
Nani?
I'm there with you, Kiryu. See? Okay. She really liked it. How does it feel, huh? Not so great. Alright, I'm on a roll. Can't stop now. I'm gonna have ChatGPT tell me how to confess to her. I mean, he's really happy. Yeah, I agree. Can't deny that. He's really happy. Honestly, if he stays happy, that's fine, actually, for me. I'm okay with it. I mean, it's not my place. That's what I would tell myself. Kiryu, on the other hand, maybe not. He wouldn't be okay with saying it's not his place. Let's go find out. Okay. Isn't this romantic, Takaishi-san? Just you and me by the Sotenburi River? Yeah, I guess so. It wasn't until I met you that I realized what a lovely shade of blue this river is. And so, being near this beauty with you makes me feel nervous but excited. Well... He's probably selling lines, yep. That's strange. Their message made it seem like they were hitting it off pretty well. What's going on? Hold up. You know, just being around you awakens the poet in me. The river is blue. You're sweet. It's true. What do you think? It's, cute. Eh. It's not painful. It's kind of painful to watch, Kitty. There's more where that came from. Right now, there's actually something I want to tell you. Kusno. What's going on? You know this guy? Sorry to bother you. I'm an acquaintance of Kusno's. What are you doing here? You're taking your lines word for word from Chat DDT again, aren't you? What? So what if I am? You're gonna try and tell me I'm wrong for asking for help? No, that's not what he's saying, but that would be a very bad thing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
No, I'm telling you that genuine communication is better than imperfect communication. If you got something important to say, don't go searching for the cleanest, best edited version. Take a risk for once. Speak from your own heart. I told it to write a heartfelt confession to Takaishi that gets my feelings across. I'm trying here. You're just standing here, there, invalidating my efforts. Exactly. What efforts? At this point, you're kidding yourself if you think you're not just a robot listening to another robot's orders. Some meatheads interrupted my date. How should I handle him?
Good.
With the love of all that is mighty. Kiryu. That's certainly an issue. A confession of love is a deeply important event in your life. Having it interrupted may seriously affect your future happiness. Based on our previous chat history, you could impress your date and save your love life by beating the intruder with your fists. Okay? Yep. 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 Kusoku, are you okay? Did you get it out of your system? Is it true what this man was saying? Oh, does she know about Chat DTT?
So.
Tell her the truth. Sorry, he's right. I just didn't want to screw this up. Huh, funny. I've also got something to apologize. Oh, did she use it too? Don't tell me. Dang, that would explain how they lined up so well. Aw, that's cute. Alright, alright. I'll buy it. This is like the once in a lifetime kind of deal. That's kind of nice. Good job, RGG. I had no clue how to respond to the messages I got from you. Oh. Dude, that's a reinforced problem. You what? I didn't want you to hate me, Kusno-kun, so I asked how should I respond. Oh, they already liked each other. Yeah. Aw. Okay. Excellent. No. Dun, 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 dun. This is the OPOP theme of sub-story conclusions and side cases and all that. I mean, he could do it himself. He learned something. Might be useful. You know, Chat DTT might have been a useful tool starting out, but I think I don't want to rely on it. I want to figure things out for myself. Good on you, mate. Yep.
Yeah.
So now we're back where we started. You don't want to swear it off it. Just rethink how you're using it. Oh. Tell me if there are any good restaurants around here. Sotenberry is well known for being a center of culinary extravagance, boasting a wide swath of famous restaurants. Any one of them is likely to provide a memorable experience for you.
Yeah.
Well, so much. It's not specific, you know. I know a good hole in the wall we can go. Oh. If Chad had been around, Yumi would. If Chad DTT had been around when Yumi was alive, what would I have done? Nah, I wouldn't have used it for her. Well, if it was about trying not to tick off Kashiwagi-san, then maybe... Sorry, that's a legacy. So, Kashiwagi, I mentioned a little bit ago, yesterday, in the bar Survive. He's actually alive, but he's technically dead in Kiryu's mind due to the events of Yakuza 3. But he was his mentor when Shintaro Kazuma was still around too, his father, the surrogate father, and when he was back in Tojo Clan. So this is more referring to Yakuza 0. Oh, that was so good. Oh, it's a romantic end.